Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Today we have with us Matthew Palis, CEO of Infront Webworks. Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing well. Saying hello from sunny Colorado in the United States. It's
Um,
good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Matt has 20 plus years of experience across technology and website development, and right now Matt has been, helping his agency navigate through the COVID-19 pandemic very well. So that's why, Matt, we wanted to talk to you today to discuss about the various things you are doing and what all is there that an agency should look at, to come through this situation, because it doesn't look like this is going to end very soon.
Yeah, I understood. I think what we would like to do here is I'd like to talk a little bit about just kind of general agency approaches to this kind of crisis on a global level because we're all in different markets, we're all in different countries. And that way we can have kind of open dialogue and ask questions about that kind of stuff. But then we can get into a little bit more of what's going on in the United States specifically and what agencies in the U.S. can specifically do as a plan to get a hold of these paycheck protection programs and how do they work with unemployment benefits and things of that nature. But let's kind of back up and maybe talk at a high level. Um, I know that in the United States, I have a lot of friends in the industry as well, and we even competitors in the area. We're pretty close with them, so talking with them, and we do white label stuff too. So we have other agencies we work with, and talking with them, and I think you've seen the same thing. Is we've seen pretty significant declines in residual billings,
Yeah.
almost immediately. Probably in the U.S. when they shut us down in the first 2 weeks, we were down just under 20% in residual billings within that 2 week period. So obviously in a business like this where, we rely pretty heavily on residual income and we're used to it. That
Yeah.
was a kind of shock. A lot of us were not used to that.
I
We're like,
mean,
no, we might
tr-
lose a contract here or there, but am I going to lose 10 or
uh,
20 in a two
trust
week period? You
trust me,
know,
first 2 weeks were scary, man.
No, it was. It was. I lived through the 9/11, the dot com bust, and I got to tell you, that was it was the same kind of emotions. There's no question I had the same feelings, and I was kind of wondering where is this all headed. So, I think that for Infront we were fortunate, and I'll talk a little bit about kind of it's weird where, and I will tell you straight up, I go in and I listen to a lot of consultants with respect to agencies and how to grow them and everything. And for years, we've noticed that the marketing side has great margins. Web development side margins have always struggled. If you talk to most people that have really successful agencies, they'll say, "Get out of web development, don't touch it, get out of it." Well, part of the reason, really interestingly enough, why we didn't have the steep declines. I mean, I know people in the States that had 40% declines, 50% declines in income over those same periods. Part of the reason we didn't was that we also do web development and cloud-based services. So there was a fairly decent side of our income that was protected kind of in the cloud side. It's not significant, but it's enough to protect that revenue. And then on the web development side, that actually went up. We
Right.
ended up with mid-tier companies, nonprofits that wanted a lot more WordPress sites because they got marketing people on staff. They're sitting around, hey, it's time. Let's go do this. We have initiative. Let's get them done during this time when everybody's at home. So they were able to have the time to focus and actually get these initiatives out. We're also seeing more proposals. Okay, we're seeing more RFPs for larger websites right now. So interestingly enough, we saw definitely people with pay-per-click. They said, "Hey, wait a minute, my business got shut down. We need to pause our campaigns." No
Right.
questions asked. We totally agree. Um, there's other people with SEO that would shut off local SEO campaigns as well. I will say that one of the things that we did realize with some of our clients, though, and this is kind of important, is that if you are been working with a client that has SEO campaigns that they're doing with you, local or national, if they're in a competitive industry and all of their competitors are putting the brakes on their marketing, guess what, guys? If that company has the budget and they're not worried about the cash flow, they should keep the gas pedal down, because while all their competitors are taking their foot off the gas, now they can leapfrog ahead of them on from an SEO perspective. So we saw a lot of benefits to that. Hold on one second, please.
Yeah, sure.
So we saw a ton of benefits for that. For some clients, it was like there was a market opportunity there to say, hey, listen, if you got the cash flow, let's do it. Some of the things that on the income side, aside from kind of service diversity, that's helped a little bit. Some of the other things that have helped is really trying to work with existing clients. We're all in on this together, guys. I mean, it's a difficult situation. If you have a client that's been working with you a long time and you know they're going to be going for some of these government assistance plans, they're going to get money down the road. In fact, I'm actually seeing some clients they're going to be flush with cash after this. Like, no joke. There's some that are really hurting. Restaurants, if your business got shut down, you know, they got hurt really bad. But there's other businesses that are moderately shut down that'll be flush with cash. So some of them have short-term problems, and if you can work through those short-term problems with them, whether it's working out different payment arrangements, where you can say, hey, listen, this month you've been with me for 12 months or 6 months, you've been a great client. Tell you what, we won't charge you next month. We'll charge you, double the following month, or whatever you can do to come up with a plan that's equitable, that's going to work for both parties to get through it. We've also done it on the website side. I mean, we got bodies and seats. Let's keep them busy, right? That's our objective. We've got to keep people employed as much as possible. So I feel like we're making deals all day. It's like, we'll build you a website today. Can I have a hamburger today? I'll pay you tomorrow. It's the same kind of thing.
Well, but that's working also, Matt. Sorry to cut you there, but I mean, just
go right ahead.
Adding to your point, I mean, even I have seen for a lot of my agency partners, when all of this was happening, so we were discussing and we were trying to see what will work and what will not work, and we did try this with some agency partners where they were mainly doing local SEO. And they were not even focusing on websites. I mean, they would say that, hey, we are a marketing company. We'll take care of your local SEO. We don't do websites. And, I told them to go out there, and nobody wanted to pay them for local SEO, even if, they were not high dollar value, projects. But still, like people were not interested, or local businesses were not interested in paying for marketing because the businesses are shut, right? Why should I pay for something which I'm not interested in right now? And we tried the same approach where they tried one strategy which one of my clients tried was they called people who were on these directories, like these directories where they're paying the directories to be listed, and they went to them and told them that, hey, we are building you a website. Some said, hey, just pay me $50 or $100 as a confirmation. Then when things are okay, let's talk about marketing. And some told them, okay, fine, $10 a month, and some just build the website for them and told them that we can talk when things are better. But at the end of the day, you're building a website for somebody, and it's not SEO. It's something which he can look at, he can feel, he likes it, he knows your potential, and you have given him not a favor, but you kind of have shown your generosity where you have kept your people busy, but you have given them a website, and at the same time you're creating a big sales pipeline for you as well. So I absolutely agree. I mean, these are the times where, if I talk about new clients, we need to see that what we are trying to offer to the community, where maybe we are at least locking some new clients. And even for existing clients, I think it's a time for an agency to see how good their account managers are. I mean, if an account manager is actually involved with the client, he's like a family to him, then an account manager can go and he can check out the plans available for that business and tell him that, hey, you can apply for this, you can do that, you can do this, and ultimately the clients will stay maybe on a lesser package for some time, but
that's a good point, because one of the things we did, the first thing we did was we had all of our account managers go through their client list to identify which ones they thought were at risk, which ones they thought might have opportunity, and we take a team approach as far as our account managers. They a lot of times will just kind of cross-reference thoughts and ideas about different clients, because some people have worked in e-commerce more than others. Some people have been more on the pay-per-click side. Some people are more on the local side. Some people deal with multi-location more. So there's a different skill set. So we had a group meeting right away at the very beginning and said, okay, let's go through our client list. Who's vulnerable? Who's got opportunity? And then get in touch with them. You got to talk to them. I can tell you right now, it's amazing. Most amazing thing that happened to me was about after the second week into it, there were 3 really large clients that we've been working with for 8 years that I hadn't spoken to. I hadn't spoken the owners to directly in probably 2 years. I talked to all of them, every single one of them. They all wanted to talk about it. They wanted to know what Infront was doing. They wanted to talk about all the programs in the U.S. This was a business owner to business owner conversation where we got to exchange ideas on how we were all going to get out of this and navigate it. And it was really the trust level and the relationship level with those clients went way up. I could feel it just in that conversation. You could feel it.
Right.
It really brought everybody together. So if you have existing clients that are decent size, call 1 a day, call 2 a day, whatever you got to do. Call them up. How's it going? Don't be afraid. I think that what happens is a lot of people have a tendency of, if I can just ignore it, it'll go away or fix itself. That's not going to happen. If the credit card bounced, guys, for your payment this month, you got to call them up and have that conversation early and often, because you want to know right now if that's not coming through, or you want to know right now if they can only give you half of it now and half next month. Those discussions have to happen early and often when this kind of stuff is going on. Don't avoid them. Do not avoid them. It just becomes a snowball mess that you're not going to know what's going on. So those are kind of on the income side, some of the things that we looked at. I'm kind of projecting forward a little bit on the income side. When we look at kind of what we feel is going to happen in the U.S. anyway, is it feels like when they start opening up like they're doing right now, our service-based businesses are going to come back in. So a lot of those people that had local SEO campaigns that put them on pause, or pay-per-click campaigns, put them on pause, they're going to fire back up. In fact, one of the predictions I have is that pay-per-click's going to come back quicker because it's immediate results. So I think there's going to be a fair amount of companies that are going to have cash once they get it from these programs. They're going to know, I got to get my people working, I need leads, I got to get business pumping, and they're going to go for the paid, probably right out of the gate. Right. So I think PPC is going to be a big push right in the beginning. And then you can obviously start blending in SEO, content campaigns, social media, things like that. But I do feel like that's probably going to be one of the first movers. And we didn't talk too much about costs. I know I have a few ideas there. A lot of what we did was, if you have, even on a personal level here in the United States, I was telling people, call your bank if you got a mortgage.
Yep.
Tell them, put the thing on hold. My bank did it. They put my mortgage on hold. They put it on hold for 3 months, and they're sending me a letter on what options I can do. But hey, in the short term, we don't know how quick they're going to come out of this. You need to protect your income, reduce your costs as much as possible. I know we had all of our dev department, cloud department, and marketing departments call up all the vendors and discuss payment options with vendors to see, okay, can we skip this month because we're going for the PPP and we'll have our money next month. We did everything we could to shore up and stay cash flow as close to cash flow positive as possible through this. Because I even though it stinks, I think it's the smartest thing to do.
We have been, suggesting agencies, or even for our own selves, we have been tracking this every week. So we have kind of created buckets, where,
Totally.
Every department has its own bucket. As an agency, like you said, you're doing SEO, you're doing PPC, you're doing dev. So you have an SEO team, you have a link building team, you have a, PPC team. So you need to know in every department what is the income coming and what are the expenses. And, as an agency, you have overhead. So I think right now the most important thing is tracking everything, maybe weekly, and then having contingency plans for every scenario, because at the end of the day,
That's a really good point. That's a super good. That's what we're. It's funny. you get into habits of doing things, and you don't realize that, okay, that's a great idea. Not everybody's doing that. We literally budget weekly right now. We have our sales meeting. I get a number from everybody every single Monday. I'm like, what's your number? That's a 90% number. All right. If you don't think that check's coming in this month, that goes into next month's number. I want a 90% number every single Monday. Everybody on my team knows that. So every department reports on the sales meeting what their number is, and their objective is to hit it. We forked off, to your point, we forked off our budget starting in middle of March because all this started going down. We had a forecast all built out for the year. We're ready to implement. Woo, we're actually on track. Everything was going great. But as soon as this hit, middle of March, we forked that budget off. Dash COVID-19 version, and we've been hammering that literally weekly. It's like, okay, what can we strip out? What can we cut back? How can we save? How can we have an increase in income? And we literally had a drop in March, and it looks like we're gonna actually gain ground in April. We're gonna close April out stronger than March, so looks like we're heading in the other way. We'll see.
So I mean,
you never know.
Yeah, Matt, talking about sales, I mean, how big is your sales team?
It's really funny. We have a very different model. Our company right now, we stripped down a little bit. We're around 14 right now, total people. The thing is our model on how we do business is a little bit different because of kind of the demographic of the people that are maybe at the top, so to speak. So you've got myself, you got my COO, Mike Hodgson, and the previous owner of the company, Andy Ming. All of us are 50, around early 50s, okay? And then we have other people that manage departments, and they'll do sales as well. So sales in our organization is handled by the people at the top.
Okay.
They sound weird, but we have the experience, so we want to go in and we want to sell only in the companies that we're going to be successful with, and we want to make sure that it's going to be a win. So we're super cautious about the types of clients we take on. We want, if it's a really super competitive industry and somebody doesn't have the budget, we have the ability in our team to go, sorry, you need to look elsewhere. We can't help you. So it's a very controlled growth situation because we're very tight. We communicate all the time. We know what leads are coming in. All of our departments are pretty well glued together. We're not a massive organization, but we are an organization of people that are really seasoned. Quite frankly, that's literally what happened in our organization for the most part when this came up and we had layoffs. The layoffs were more people that were they were more on the overhead side or administrative side, and we protect the core. And that was ultimately what we ended up doing. So, you've got a core group of really talented people that can wear a lot of hats, and that's a good scenario to be in tough times.
Right.
Okay?
Also,
so
I think
that was our approach. I don't think everybody takes that approach, but when I go into the kind of what's going on in the U.S., you'll kind of see what was causing some of that, steering it, I guess.
Right.
And why we were doing it.
Since you're involved, yourself in the new revenue coming in, what are you seeing? Like you said, even I agree, a lot of people are investing into dev now, even like big businesses which were not investing in dev, which were already happy with, selling through their shops and didn't have a big e-com store or a big backend system. We are seeing a lot of people investing in dev right now, building their websites. But, what industries are you seeing, most people actually spending money? As an agency, what are the industries, if I have to ask my question correctly, what are the agencies we should look after? I mean, industries. Sorry.
It's funny. I have a list of ones that should be growing in this, but it's been a bizarre experience because, like I'll give you an example. Like we had one client that they cleaned air ducts. Well, when this first came down, we got on the pay-per-click campaigns. They're getting contracts, huge contracts. Things are going crazy. Well, Google shuts us down. You can't use the word COVID-19. You can't use this word. You can't use that word. Okay. We got away with it for a little while. then all of a sudden the state shuts them down. You know what I mean? So here's a client that had a massive market opportunity and then lost it a week later. So it's been really bizarre. But I would say, as a general rule, I think medical is suffering in some areas, but it's doing well in other areas. Um, One thing that I absolutely think is an area that I think will expand way more in the next 2 years than it has maybe in the past 10 years is and we've already seen the trend, but I think it's going to accelerate because these retailers are going to realize it. What the trend that we're starting to see is that because point of sale systems are tied into common e-commerce systems, that in order for a lot of local shops to compete, they need to basically plug their e-commerce and their point of sale systems together, so that instead of having a 5-page website about outdoor stuff that they sell, they now have a 5,000-page website with every product. So that if I go into Google and say I'm looking for a pair of Moab ventilators, shoes size 11, they're going to go, hey, I got a guy right down the street that's got it for you. So I think that that's going to be a massive push. It's a lot easier now to plug point of sale into most of your e-commerce platforms. We were already seeing that trend, but I think we're going to see it more so now. I think most of your restaurants are already tied into delivery services and SaaS-based services. But I do think that when it comes to retail, if you can plug into some good platforms like BigCommerce, Shopify, Zoe's and a more advanced one that's a Magento Enterprise fork off. There's some really decent platforms out there. If you can latch onto those, there's pretty much plugins for most point of sale. And it's kind of like, I look at point of sale like QuickBooks. It's kind of like the tail wags the dog. They need to pick a point of sale system that they like first, and then we figure out how we're going to plug it into the e-commerce system. Because a lot of times they'll come to you and say, hey, can you help us evaluate a point of sale system? We don't actually do that. That's your business. You're going to have to play with it and figure it out first. Figure out if it's got the requirements you need. Then we'll figure out if it can do what you want on the e-commerce side. But I think that's going to be huge because content footprint is everything. Local is everything when it comes to Google. And if you combine your point of sale and your e-commerce, you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to have a massive content footprint on a local level.
Right,
I think that's going to be huge.
Right. I think also, as an agency, this is also a time where, since you're looking at all your expenses, all your departments, this is a time where now you will also get to know what are the areas, which were very profitable for you and what were the areas where you were overspending. So maybe, get your structure right, or even, think about, are you heavy on, dev, or are you heavy on, what you need to outsource? Because I think, one thing everyone has learned that, it's okay to work remote, right? I mean, when I used to talk to agencies, since we work with a lot of agency partners as their back-end team, sometimes I have met people who, would love to have a good outsourcing solution for some departments. Obviously, you should not outsource everything, but there are some areas within an agency where if you're able to outsource, you get a good partner, you're able to, control your expenses, increase your profitability. But some people sometimes are not comfortable because they want people to be right there in front of them. This also.
Yeah, I think that's the flexible workforce is a big one. I know even on the dev side, I've tried that because that's, over the years we've tried that more just because it's harder. With dev projects, your hour requirements go like this. With marketing, you can kind of linearize that out if you plan it, with your clients, with contracts, and they got to stay on so long, and that kind of stuff. You can, you don't see these big, dips and rises in service revenue. It's a lot harder, I think. So I think that outsourcing, having a flexible workforce is great. And I have some friends that run businesses that do a lot of onshoring. Well, they get people from offshore, bring them H-1B and stuff like that, bring them to the United States. And he kind of said to me, "Oh, I was really upset because I couldn't really take part of some of these programs because I was all 1099s." I'm like, "Well, that's kind of the advantage. You had all 1099s. We got a payroll to carry." Got very different business models. But I think that outsourcing can be very helpful for a flexible workforce. I think it's really important for people to have access to that, especially right now. There's
Right.
going to be and then we didn't even talk about what we think is going to settle out globally with respect to a lot of the smaller agencies that are out there. Are they going to still be able to hold on? If you got a lot of independent contractors out there that are trying to struggle through this, I think that for larger agencies, there might be opportunities to get some of that business. I do think people are going to be super value centric coming out of this as far as clients. I think that there might be clients that were paying top dollar for a large agency to do something for them, for provide services, and they're going to say, you know what, we got to start looking around at other vendors because they're charging us. This is like Moe Shandon pricing over here, and we can get a much better value with another organization. So you might start seeing companies shopping more too. So there's opportunities for mid-sized and smaller agencies to pick up clients that were with bigger agencies. I think that definitely will probably start happening. I think that people become really smart with the money and how they want to spend it when this happens.
Right, right. Also, one interesting thing which I found with one of my clients, I was having a chat with him last week, and he was going through some resumes, and I was like, at this time you're actually thinking about hiring, and he's like, hey, this is a perfect time. A lot of people are getting
Yeah,
fired. If you have the
really good people
cash,
out there.
why not just have a look at it? And I mean, I think he got around 40 resumes in one day. He just
Yeah,
opened the position and he got 40 resumes in one day. So for any agency out there, if you have cash, you know, why not look
there's
for good
big
people?
agencies in the states that have laid off. They've furloughed half their people. There's really good people out there right now, incredible people.
Right.
So
Right.
if you need to hire, it's a great time. Then that's the tricky part is kind of how do you navigate in this, how do you navigate through it, and then how do you navigate right back out of it
Right.
again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
From a
you
numbers
also you
perspective.
also need to plan about the future because I mean, talking about hiring good people, even your sales strategies. I know a lot of agencies who, still focus on outbound and like
Hmm.
cold calls and cold emails. But I think now, it's
It's a
also
harder time to
time,
do that.
yeah, where you need to focus more on inbound, get your content strategy right, because the way the things are moving, I think now inbound and I mean, content already was becoming popular, but even as an agency for sales, we would have to focus more on inbound,
That's
going.
what that is. I mean, that is all we. I mean, I told you our model is completely different than a lot of companies, but we're exclusively inbound. I mean, we make some outbound calls, but it is super rare. Everything we do a lot of blogging, just tons of content we're writing. We're doing video blogs now. We kind of scaled back a little bit, where we're ramping that back up again. We just do tons and tons of content, tons of SEO on our own stuff. We do some paid advertising for ourselves. We work with the large directories as far as making sure that we've got good reviews in there, client reviews and stuff. Keep that up to date. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Again, it doesn't necessarily take money. I talk to my team all the time. I'm like, well, if we're putting in 100 man hours a month into Infront marketing, that's not nothing, guys.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
not nothing. What would a client pay for that?
right.
So if you got resources, put them on it. Keep that hammer down. We're not slowing down. In fact, what was really sketchy and crazy? We did a website change in December. We
Oh.
went from Sitefinity to WordPress and completely ported our whole site over. Fortunately, everything went up. We handled it really well. But that was kind of a sketchy. I mean, if that would have been a double whammy if we had a tough time with that, and then had this come right on the tails of it. But that all went off without a hitch.
Right,
But good times to again assemble your team, have them work on your stuff if you got extra hours.
right,
It's a
right.
great time to do it.
Also, Matt, I mean, I know that we have even talked about it earlier that you have actually done very well in looking out for all the opportunities out there as an agency to get cash. Whether
Hmm.
it's uh, you know uh, payment protection, or a lot of those uh, models which are
Sure.
available out there. It would be great if you would give our viewers some tips and ideas about what all they can look at least the
Sure.
at least the agencies from the US who are watching this can benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're from the U.S., I think if you haven't been through this process yet, this will be super helpful. I know a lot of they just expanded the program again, so um, time is of the essence. I'll start with that. I don't know if you want to hand it off to me. I can use. I have a quick little PowerPoint here
You
that I can
you
go
can
through this.
share your screen.
Oh, okay. All right. And I want to share. Just put this in first. Oops, sorry. Where were you? Sorry. Here we go.
That's okay.
Can you see it now?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, it says moving parts on it. Yeah, okay, good. All right, guys. So first off, I mean, obviously, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a mortgage lender. I'm a business guy that's been running an agency since the 90s, okay, of some kind. But I do have access to a really great group of coaches, business consultants. So when this was going down, I was plugged in daily at webinars, trying to get feeds on how these programs were changing and what's going on with them. So I'm going to go over this. It's very high level. Um, some of the stuff is moving parts and it's changed a little bit, and some of this PowerPoint is actually little pieces might be out of date. So I will tell you if those pieces are out of date when I get into it. So in the U.S., I looked at kind of four areas, four levers we can work with. One is unemployment benefits. The second one is what they call an EIDL grant. And the other one is the Paycheck Protection Program. And then, how do you save cash? We've already talked quite a bit about how to save cash. A lot of it is just working with your vendors and just making sure that you're connected with them. So I'll skip that part at the end. Um, so I want to go over the unemployment system first. There's a lot to this, but it's once I get through it, it's pretty clear how it all works out at a very high level. So we have the ability to take people and furlough them into the unemployment systems. I encourage people, and I'm going to give you a little bit of kind of inside information just because from employees, and I have a friend who works in New York State in the unemployment office. He's been working there for 20 years. So I'm getting feedback from people that the systems are clogged in the United States. I mean, completely clogged. And to give you an idea, I applied for the EIDL within like 5 days of applying for my Paycheck Protection Program loan. And I applied for the EIDL on the 30th of May, and then I applied for the Paycheck Protection Program on the 1st of April, literally the first day they could take applications. And it took 30 days for both of those to go through. And the weirdest part about all of this is the communication is almost nil. It's like you're yelling into the void expecting an answer. It's like, did you get my application? Echo, echo, echo. Okay. So if that happens, that's normal. It's not gonna feel normal, but it's very normal. And I tell people, be persistently patient, and that's about the best thing I can say. So what is going on in the United States with the unemployment system is that if I was to take a person that worked for me and put them on unemployment, in most states, and I'm going to use Colorado as an example because that's where we are at. In Colorado, they have a couple different calculations, but it comes out to roughly 50% of your pay. So whatever you are getting paid per week, normally the state of Colorado will kick in 50% of that pay. Now, what the federal government has done is they've said, you know what? I know that you're only going to get 50% from the state. We're going to kick in an extra $600 a week regardless of who you are and how much money you make. I'll show you what that looks like on another slide. It's kind of interesting. So massive backlogs. When I talked to my friend at New York State at the time, this was a few weeks ago, he did not have any idea when they were going to be able to start processing the federal $600 a week checks yet. Okay, so that tells you this system is glommed up right now. The money's coming, but it's glommed up. Okay, they just can't get it through quick enough. And in the states, some of them haven't even figured out how to process it. Okay, so it's going to happen, but it's taking some time. I just want to set that expectation for people just so they kind of understand that. Your lower wage earners, this is kind of interesting because of the model and how they do it. Your lower wage earners actually get a raise by going on unemployment, which is a little bit tricky. We've already had a situation where we started talking. We got our PPP loan, and we went back to one of our employees and said, "Hey, we'd like you to come back." And he was kind of like, "Well, kind of got the flooring torn apart in the living room, and I've been hanging out with my boys, and it's been kind of fun." All right, well, can we negotiate? How does the middle of May sound? So it could become. Be careful. It can become a little bit weird when you're asking people to come on, because they're going to be like, I don't know if I want to. But this is kind of what it looks like, and these are some examples, and these are kind of real examples. I did these numbers. If somebody in Colorado made like 25 grand a year, the state would kick in $240 a week. Then the Fed would kick in $600. So they're effectively a $25,000 a year employee is effectively making $43,700 a year, effectively, for that time period when they're on it. So they literally got a $1,558 a month raise being on unemployment. So you can kind of see person number two, $30,000, they get a $1,350 a month raise. Person number three making 45 grand, $725 a month raise, still pretty dang good. Fourth person, $60,000 a year, they get a $100 a month raise. So you can kind of see lower wage workers, they're getting furloughed, but they're not hurting. It makes it a little easier as an employer, because if you're furloughing somebody, they can be making up to 60 grand a year, and you're not hurting them financially. I know back in the .com bust, that was a very different feeling, because the unemployment wasn't there, the jobs weren't there, all of that. So this at least helps out a little bit in the short term for people. So that's kind of the unemployment benefits and how they work at a really high level. Again, employees that I know of that got on it right away, it still took them 30 days to start getting a check, even from the state. That doesn't include the Fed part. So there is going to be some difficulties for your people when they go on the program in the short term. There's no question about that. The EIDL, this is there's a bit of confusion around this. So the EIDL program was originally designed for disaster loans, and because they were trying to get money out as quickly as possible to businesses, they could not. What they wanted to do is be able to get out to $10,000 to any kind of business, up to 10 grand. So the way the EIDL works right now is, if you go and apply for it, they'll give you $1,000 per employee up to 10 employees, so a maximum of 10K. All right. And the reason that they changed it so that it would do it this way with the 10,000 is because they couldn't process these the full loan applications. Because typically this would be a full loan. You could ask for 250 grand or $500,000, but they were like, we got to get the money out quick. So they ripped down the full application. They put this simple little application up, and I can tell you it's super easy to fill out. I can send to you, maybe you can post it with the video or something. I can send to you a web page on our site that has links to all this stuff, the applications for the EIDL and everything. It's super simple. You just go in, you fill out your basic business information. They're more concerned with like how many employees you have, what your revenue was, what your cost of goods sold were for 2019. Plug in your bank account information. Really super simple. It's like 3 pages. Click, 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 done. That one, like I said, took about 30 days, and I just got a $10,000 deposit into the account because we have over 10 employees. So that's how that program works. Now, bear in mind, if you go for this EIDL, whatever they give you, whether it's 2 grand or 10 grand, technically that's 100% forgiven. Okay, so it's yours to keep. Now, if you then decide, like I did, to go for the Paycheck Protection Program, this EIDL kind of ties into it. It becomes like an advance on it. Okay. And I'll explain that when I get a little further down the road here, how that all works out. Just want to make sure. I'm going to scan through this because I've kind of talked about quite a bit of it already.
Yeah.
They were originally going to distribute in like 3 to 5 days. That never happened. I'll leave this up just for a second if you want to scan through it real quick, but I pretty much have gone over all of this. let me get into the Paycheck Protection Program. So this one's a little more advanced program. This is the one they just expanded again. They added another like 300 billion to it. So if you have under 500 employees per location, you can join in on this. You can be a sole proprietor, independent contractor, self-employed individual. I'm not as clear, I will tell you straight out, I'm not as clear as how this works with massive 1099 organizations. Now, I've talked to a few. Now, if you, as an example, let's say you have 4 full-time staff and 100 1099 contractors. My understanding on this is that the 1099s are on their own. They can go apply for unemployment with the states. Okay, they can now do that. And then you would apply the Paycheck Protection Program to your full-time staff, or your W-2 employees only. Okay, and so that could work for people. I mean, even if it, like I said, if it was just like a husband and wife business and they had a whole bunch of contractors, they can still get money under the PPP for themselves as the husband and wife part of the team. Okay, so it definitely can work for people with smaller businesses as well. I will say right now, with the Paycheck Protection Programs, you want to get with an SBA lender, and you want to do that as soon as possible, like really fast. The money went in like under 2 weeks the first time, so this is time is of the essence. I really got to jump on it right now. Let me see. So, like I said before, if you did go for the EIDL 10K, then they're going to apply that to this PPP as well, and I'll get into some of those numbers as we get a little further along. So the way that the Paycheck Protection Program works is you can it's put together as a loan technically with what they call forgiveness. Okay, so the loan amounts can be up to 10 million, but the way that they calculate the loan is they look at your 2019 payroll and they say, okay, in 2019 your payroll was X. We're going to give you a loan for 2.5 times X. Okay, without getting into some details. There's little details in there, things they don't include, but they pretty much include just about everything. I think it's federal unemployment insurance is the only one they don't include as what they would include in the calculations. Everything else, like if you're given retirement money to an IRA, 401k, if your health insurance benefits you're paying for, health savings accounts deposits, all your payroll taxes, all that stuff's included in that figure. So they'll give you 2.5 times that, okay? So if you can kind of picture this, they take last year's payroll, they'll say, what was your average monthly? All right, we'll give you 2.5 times that monthly as a loan. That's how you qualify for the amount that you can borrow. Now, how do we get stuff forgiven? That's the tricky part. In order to have that money forgiven, you have to spend 75% of it on payroll expenses. And you have to do that between now and the end of June, okay? What they don't want people doing, it would be complete fraud, but what they don't want people doing is they don't want them basically applying for this, saying I have this massive payroll, getting a big, huge check from the government as a loan technically, and then laying everybody off the next day, okay? Well, that won't work. So what they want you to do is spend 75% of that money on payroll. So this is a balance, okay? And I can tell you with our organization, we're not like a restaurant where we got completely shut down. Those decisions are made for you when that happens. And I'm going to give you an example of kind of what that looks like for a business that gets shut down. And I will say, guys, some of the best relationship building I've done has been talking to my clients about this stuff and helping them. The best thing you can do is help your clients get money into their hands. It's going to make this go away quicker. Okay. So this is a delicate balance. Now, if you've got a company that gets completely shut down, basically what happens is, and I'll kind of give you a scenario what I would have done if I had a restaurant. I would have been in a situation where I have no income coming in. I still got to pay rent, still got to pay utilities. I probably got food I got to throw and all this other stuff. So what I'm going to end up doing is I got to scale back as much as possible, probably lay everybody off, including myself. And then you're in a situation where it's like, okay, let me go now start applying for this payroll protection. Well, what their expectation is when they give you the loan, you're going to hire all those people back, even if your restaurant's not open. I mean, like literally they want you, in order for you to spend 75% of that on payroll, if a business has been shut down and they can't open, they literally could be hiring people back and paying them to stay at home. I'm not kidding. That's what their expectation is. Because if you don't spend 75% of that on payroll, it's a loan. There's some prorations in there, guys, okay, on how they do it. But the parts of that start to turn into a loan on you, okay?
Right.
It's a fairly inexpensive loan, but still. So you want to balance, like, I'm going to lay people off because I need to in order to mitigate the short term, and then start to do some calculations to phase in what does my payroll need to look like over the next 2 months in order to meet that 75% figure so that I can have this loan forgiven, okay? So there's a fair amount of balance there, and like I said, I had to run a lot of scenarios on this, and I'll rerun them at the end of May, okay? Just to double check it again, I always double check myself, because the reality as far as levers is, I'll give you a few levers you can pull. There's some ideas if you need to increase the payroll. Let's say you let people go and you don't want to play the start stop game, because I don't like doing that with people. That was another thing that when I sat down with my COO and we said we got to let some people go, I said I only want to do it once, and we want to do an overcorrection, because I only want to do it once. I'm not going to play start stop with my employees. It's not happening. Okay, so we made sure that we made a really hard cut in the beginning, so that we weren't completely out of whack with the guidelines. And then now that we know we got the loan, now we're starting to add people back in. So here's some ideas. Well, in this Paycheck Protection Program, if somebody makes over $100,000 a year, you can only include the first $100,000. So there's ways to increase your payroll by giving somebody a raise. If they don't make $100,000, somebody makes $60,000, you can give them a raise. That'll increase your payroll. One of the tactics that we did is we had 4 people coming up for review this quarter, and they're longtime employees and they're seasoned people. So we said, you know what? You're getting a pay raise early. We're going to give you all reviews, and we're giving all your pay raises early. So that was a way for us to make a decision. It had to be done anyway. It was going to happen. So we were able to give those people those raises, increase the payroll costs, but still be careful about who we're bringing back on, okay? Because again, super sensitive to this. I don't know. I feel good about this month, but I don't know. I don't know till May's over. I don't know till June's over, So we're opening up slowly and carefully, and really trying to pay attention and make smart decisions, so we're not messing with people's lives, but we're still trying to stay within the guidelines on this stuff. Let me just go through. I kind of went through this, the stuff that's included: healthcare benefits, employee salaries and commissions. If you have a mortgage on your property for your business, you can include the interest in there. That will be forgiven. They'll include your rent and your utilities. Those can be forgiven as well. But just remember, the factor is whatever the loan amount is, 75% has to be on payroll.
Right.
The other 25% can make up rent, utilities, mortgage interest, and those are kind of the only ones that are really covered. So just kind of bear in mind, stay close to those calculations, and I will tell you, when you talk to the lender, I literally was talking to my SBA lender the day they were signing off on the loan, and I was trying to ask very pointed questions because I'm a numbers guy. I was like, I pay people twice a month, and you're saying in your guidelines that you only are going to pay for 8 weeks. Well, twice a month and 8 weeks aren't the same thing. Okay. It affects, they couldn't answer it. I got to be honest. The underwriters of the loans cannot answer really specific questions. So, and I've asked around with a lot of people that have gotten the loans, and they're asking similar questions, and they don't have the guidelines enough to actually answer the questions. It can be a little frustrating if you're a numbers person when you're going through this process, because you're really trying to plan and understand what the future is going to look like, but they can't really tell you what the guidelines are, explicitly. Okay.
Right,
so there's a lot of little things that are little caveats we're not sure about yet. So I've tried to err, again, that 75%, I tried to err a little on the higher side of it, for planning purposes, just in case, because I'm not 100% sure. Some of it, this is repeated. Like I say, payroll and cost. This is what they all include. It's basically anything that has to do with payroll. The only thing I can think of offhand, like I said, is unemployment insurance. I think is the only one that they won't count on it. It's got to be under 100. You can only include the first 100,000 in salary. So anybody who makes more than 100,000, you have to take that off of the calculation. You can't borrow. If somebody's making 150 grand, that extra 50 grand, you can't be in it. You can't borrow on that. I mean, there are some nice things about these. They're guaranteed by the U.S. government 100%, so there's zero exposure for the SBA lenders on these. They're term loans. They're saying that they're going to be at 1%. So whatever your total loan amount is, whatever they'll forgive, that just goes away. Whatever's left over that they weren't going to forgive on the loan, it turns into an actual loan. The payments will be deferred for 6 months, so you don't even have to make a payment for 6 months. Payments. Okay, it's at 1% interest for 2 years. Okay, so 2-year term, 1% interest, no payments for 6 months. Sounds like you're buying a car, doesn't it?
Yep.
Kind of similar to that. So pretty good program overall. Like I said, I think that there's a lot of companies, like I say, clients are going to come out pretty cash flush after this, and they're going to be ready to spend. So we could see an interesting third and fourth quarter. We'll see. This is the part that's eligible for forgiveness. I've kind of been going through this. When they talk about mortgage and interest and rent and utilities, my understanding on that is it's not just for for May and June, like the payroll. The payroll is really kind of for May and June. You can utilize your expenses for your rent, your utilities, mortgage interest, and whatnot from February 15th all the way up till the end of June. Okay, that's the other 25%. Okay, so a little bit tricky in there. And the link I'm going to send you has a slide deck. It has links to all the applications. It's pretty well laid out for you guys. Again, talk to an SBA lender. I'm going to give you a little bit of my experience on the SBA lender side, just to give you at least what I've heard. So when this first came out, the small banks, the small SBA lenders, because they're used to paperwork, were the ones that were processing the most loans. The bigger banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, these bigger guys, they were still trying to mobilize their IT departments to create click, 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 finish applications, okay? So in the very beginning, that first week and a half, you were seeing tons of small community banks. The only people I knew of that were getting loans were like, Kennebunk Maine Savings Bank. I was working with First Home Bank in Florida. They probably have like 4 locations, but they were my existing SBA lenders. So I will tell you straight up, if you have an existing banking relationship, if it's with a big bank, I'm torn. I've heard stories. I know one person who, he said Wells Fargo sat on his loan for his application for 15 days, and then the SBA was out of money. So he wasn't too pleased. Well, the SBA came back and now have added more money to it. But so I don't know what the best advice is. My experience was I went with my bank, which was my existing SBA lender. They're a small community bank. They put the loan through really. I mean, it was almost painless. It was so easy. In fact, I've never borrowed so much money with so little documentation in my life. It was that easy and fast. So don't be afraid of the paperwork. Go for it. And try, if you already have a small bank or an existing bank, I would definitely say tap into them. My bank is First Home Bank in Florida. Go work with them. They have an application literally right on their website. You can Google them. But they were quite good, and they pushed everything through real quick. So I don't know yet. I haven't heard back from some of my bigger clients that were banking with Chase yet to find out if theirs have gone through. Those are the only 2, Wells Fargo and Chase, the only 2 I've heard from. So it's kind of just the feedback I can give you at the moment. So again, the idea is you got to rehire people as quickly as possible with these. Kind of went through these already earlier, but talk to your credit cards, ways to save cash. Talk to your credit cards, mortgage lenders, lines of credit. See if they can expand them in the short term, because you might need an expanded line of credit until you get the PPP program. Get the grant. There's a lot of ways to work these. Your existing landlords, you can talk to them about rent. Again, a lot of this, if you're getting funding, it's not a matter of if you can pay, it's just when. So it's just a matter of negotiating with them. And what, like I say, what we did was we erred on the safe side and we talked to everybody and we cut everything as much as we could, even if we didn't think we were going to need it. Um, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. Like I said, I'll send you a page, the blog article that has all the links and the pre-recorded webinar of another one that I did on this and stuff in case people need it.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was very informative. I mean, even like the initial part where, we discussed about how overall we should go about managing these times, talking from sales point of view, existing clients point of view. So I think this is a very good opportunity for agencies to kind of, rethink a lot of their existing strategies and plan smartly for the future. And of course, whatever plans are out there from the government, look into it and try to get the maximum out of those, definitely. So thank you so much, for
Yeah, thank you. I
sharing
appreciate it.
all of this information, Matt. This was definitely helpful, and the links that you will share with us, we'll share it with all the viewers as well, so they can go there and kind of take advice and reference from there.
Yeah, if people have specific questions, they can email me as well. My email address is matt, M-A-T-T, at infront.com. I have no problem helping people. I've been helping friends of mine that have businesses, family members, helping as many people as I can. And it's kind of surprising in the U.S. to see how many people were actually almost in disbelief that these programs even existed and were almost like nervous to fill them out. I'm like, no, go, do it now. There's only one way we're going to get out of this. Go.
No, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm willing to help out as much as I can with anybody. If anybody has questions, they can certainly email me directly. I
Well,
have no
we
problem with that.
we appreciate that, man. We appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, we appreciate that, Matt, and thank you so much. I know we are short on time, but definitely we'll try, catching back with you for more information as things go. But thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.